The alarm in my office started before I even sat down, and that alone told me the footage I was about to watch was not ordinary. My name does not matter to you. What matters is my job. I study human soldiers. I watch their recordings, their briefings, their movements, and I decide how dangerous each one is. My planet fought the humans once, a long time ago, and we lost badly enough that entire departments now exist only to understand why. I am part of that effort. Every day I sit in a small room with a screen and I try to answer one question. Who among them should we fear the most? That morning, my supervisor placed a data drive on my desk without a word. Her hand was shaking slightly, which was strange because she never shook. She said only one sentence before she left. Tell me who the dangerous one is. I plugged in the drive and the screen lit up with a briefing room. Nothing was happening yet. Soldiers were gathering before a mission, checking straps, joking with each other, drinking from metal cups. It looked almost peaceful. I remember thinking this would be an easy assignment. There was a tall soldier near the front, laughing loudly, showing off a blade to two others. His name tag read Marcus. He moved his arms wide when he spoke, like he wanted the whole room to notice him. My first instinct, trained into me by years of study, said this is the dangerous one. Loud, confident, physically large. This is what threat looks like. Beside him stood a woman named Grace, arms crossed, giving orders to a smaller group. Her voice was sharp and every soldier around her straightened when she spoke. Command presence, I wrote in my notes. Likely the officer in charge, high priority. I kept watching, ranking faces, writing names, building my report the way I always did. It felt routine, predictable, the kind of footage I had reviewed 1,000 times before. Then my eyes drifted to the back row. There was a soldier sitting alone on a metal bench, slightly apart from the others. He was not large, he was not loud. He was not holding a weapon in a way meant to be seen. His name tag was too far from the camera to read clearly. He was simply sitting, still, watching the room the way I was watching the screen. I almost skipped past him, almost. But something about the stillness bothered me. Every other soldier in that room moved constantly, shifting weight, talking, laughing, tapping fingers on gear. This one did not. His hands rested on his knees, unmoving. His head did not turn when the loud ones laughed. Only his eyes moved, and they moved with purpose. Tracking the door, tracking the exits, tracking the hands of everyone near him. I paused the footage and stared at him for a long moment. I could not explain why my chest felt tight. Nothing about him looked threatening in the way I had been trained to notice, and yet some old instinct, something underneath my training, told me to look closer. I zoomed in. His face was calm, almost gentle, middle-aged, tired eyes, a thin scar along his jaw that looked old, healed long ago. He looked like someone's neighbor, someone's father, not a threat at all. I wrote his position down anyway, more out of curiosity than confidence, and moved on to finish the rest of the footage. The mission that followed was simple on paper. A small team was to slip into a contested facility, retrieve captured personnel, and leave before reinforcements arrived. Marcus led the first group in, loud and fast, clearing the entrance with practiced speed. Grace directed movement from a central position, her voice steady over the comms. It was, by every measure I understood, a well-executed operation. Then something went wrong. The facility had more defenders than expected. The team was pinned near the center, unable to advance, unable to retreat safely. I watched Marcus try to push forward and get forced back. I watched Grace redirect her people twice, 3 times, her voice rising with each failed attempt. The mission clock was running out. In the corner of the screen, I saw casualties reported, not deaths, but soldiers pulled from the fight, unable to continue. The situation was collapsing. And then the man from the back row appeared. He had not been given a leading role in the plan. I checked the mission briefing twice to be sure. He was listed simply as support, but when the front line failed, he did not panic. He did not shout. He moved. I watched him cross open ground that the others had avoided, taking a path no one else had considered, using cover so precisely that he was never in the open for more than a second at a time. He was not fast in a flashy way. He was fast in a way that wasted nothing. Every step had a reason. Every pause had a purpose. He reached a position near the captured personnel and began working, calm, efficient, methodical. While Marcus and Grace were still trying to fix the plan that was falling apart, this man was already 3 steps ahead, solving the problem the plan had never accounted for. I leaned closer to the screen. The defenders noticed him eventually, and here is where my understanding of human soldiers changed completely. When Marcus faced resistance, he pushed through it with force and noise. When Grace faced resistance, she adapted the plan and gave new orders. When this man faced resistance, he simply removed it from his path, quickly, quietly, and then continued exactly as if nothing had happened. There was no anger in his movements, no excitement. He worked like someone completing a task he had done many times before, someone who found no thrill in it, and no fear either. Within minutes, the captured personnel were freed. Within minutes more, the entire team was moving toward the extraction point, and it was this quiet man, not Marcus, not Grace, who had opened the path that made their escape possible. I sat back in my chair, my notes forgotten on the desk. I pulled up his file. It took 3 separate searches before the system returned anything at all, and what it returned was strange. Most of the record was blocked, redacted, empty spaces where information should have been. I had reviewed hundreds of human service files, and I had never seen one this incomplete. Usually a blocked file means low importance, information not worth keeping. But something told me this was the opposite. Someone had gone out of their way to hide this man's history, and hiding takes more effort than leaving something visible. The little information I could find only deepened the mystery. His name was Daniel. No rank was listed, though the other soldiers in later footage referred to him with clear respect. No home record, no training history, just a service number, and a photo that matched the calm face I had already seen in the back row. I decided to search for him in other footage, expecting to find nothing. Instead, I found him everywhere. He was in the background of a rescue operation 2 years earlier, standing quietly near a doorway while others argued over strategy. He was in a defensive engagement, barely visible at the edge of the frame, doing something with his hands that I could not identify from the angle. He was present, again and again, never at the center of the footage, never the one the cameras were pointed at. And yet every time I checked the outcome of these missions, they had succeeded. Every time. I began to feel something I had not felt while doing this job in a long time: unease. I widened my search, cross-referencing mission reports instead of footage alone. His name appeared rarely, and when it did, it was almost always in the final lines, in phrases like, "situation resolved by support personnel," or "objective secured, minimal further resistance." The other soldiers, the loud ones, the commanding ones, they filled the pages with detail. Daniel filled only the ending. It was as if the reports themselves did not know what to do with him, so they simply noted that the problem had stopped and moved on. I found one interview, recorded with a soldier who had survived an engagement where Daniel was present. The soldier, young, clearly still shaken, was asked to describe what happened. He described the chaos, the fear, the moment he thought his unit would not make it out. And then he described a quiet presence appearing beside him in the worst of it, saying almost nothing, simply telling him where to move and when. The soldier said he did not know the man's name at the time. He only knew what the others called him afterward, in hushed voices, like a nickname passed quietly between people who understood something the rest did not. They called him the Quiet One. I sat with that for a long moment, the office silent around me, the drive still glowing on my desk. I finished my report and submitted it to my supervisor, ranking Daniel as the highest threat in the footage, higher than Marcus, higher than Grace, higher than any loud or commanding figure in that briefing room. I explained my reasoning as clearly as I could. Threat is not volume. Threat is not size. Threat is the one who solves problems no one else can solve, without needing anyone to notice him doing it. My supervisor called me into her office the next day. She told me my ranking would likely be overturned. The senior analysts, she said, still believed in the old measurements: size, aggression, visible confidence. They would look at Daniel's calm face and see nothing worth fearing. I understood her warning, but I did not change my conclusion. 3 weeks later, new footage arrived, taken from a much larger engagement, one where an entire opposing force had been overwhelmed in a matter of hours. I watched it with the same careful attention I gave everything, and near the very end, in a quiet corner of a chaotic battlefield, I saw him again. Daniel, standing alone, calm as ever, while the noise of the engagement faded around him. The report that followed listed the final outcome in simple, clinical language, the kind of language that tries to hide how significant something truly is. But I understood what I was looking at. The loud ones had drawn attention, the commanding ones had given the orders, and the quiet one, sitting in the back row of every briefing, unnoticed and unremarkable to anyone who did not look closely, had once again been the reason the mission ended the way it did. I brought this new footage to my supervisor myself. This time she did not argue. She simply nodded, slowly, and told me my original ranking would stand. After that day, my process changed completely. When new footage arrived, I no longer began with the loudest voice in the room or the largest figure standing at the front. I began at the edges. I searched the back rows, the quiet corners, the places where the camera lingered only by accident. I learned to look for stillness instead of motion, for silence instead of noise, for the soldier whose hands did not move because they did not need to. I still do this work today. I still watch human footage, still rank soldiers, still try to answer the question my supervisor first asked me that morning, but I no longer trust the obvious answer. I have learned that the most dangerous person in any room is rarely the one demanding your attention. Sometimes it is the one who never asked for it at all, sitting quietly in the back row, watching everything, waiting only for the moment he is needed. And when that moment comes, everyone in the room finally understands why he never needed to raise his voice.